Hi, Doug Anderson with Utility Sales Associates. A short time ago, I was contacted by a customer and they were talking about fiber. They were asking me what I knew about bend-resistant fiber, G657 fiber. I knew that there were some different ratings for single-mode fiber, but I didn't really know the specifics, so decided to dive into it, and here's what I found. So for 657 fiber, there are three types. There's A1, A2, and B3 fiber. A1 is what is called bend improved fiber and is designed with a minimum bend radius of 10 millimeters. There's A2 fiber, which is called bend tolerant fiber, which is designed with a bend radius of 7.5 millimeters. And there's B3 fiber, which is called ultra bend insensitive fiber, designed with a minimum bend radius of 5 millimeters. So kind of occurred to me that I had fiber in my possession. I had both A1 and B3 fiber jumpers, and I have access to Viavi test equipment. So I decided to take some fiber, shoot some light through it, and throw some bends into it and see what I could find, which is essentially what this video is about. So you can follow through and see what the results are. So for my testing platform, I am using a Viavi Smart OTDR, and I'm using the Smart OTDR just as a light source. I will be shooting over to a Viavi ORL85 power meter. When I'm doing my testing, and you'll see this coming up, I'm going to shoot at both 1310. I'm also going to shoot at 1550 because what I found is the results are pretty significant. Longer wavelengths have a much more challenging time getting around bends and corners, and we'll see that. So when I shoot at 1310, I will receive over here at 1310. That's how it's set up now. It simply says low DDM because there's no light transmission, and so there's no reading. And when I shoot over at 1550, I will receive over here at 1550. So that's the configuration, and those are the meters that I will be using. So I have two different types of fiber, G657 fiber that we'll be testing, and I have A1 fiber and I have B3. A1 fiber is the type of fiber that is essentially standard in single mode jumpers. So unless one was to request otherwise, the A1 fiber is what you're going to get. And this is the B3 fiber that we will be testing as well. Both jumpers are the same. They are single mode simplex, 3 meter, SCAPC to SCAPC. Other than there are two different fiber types, A1 and B3. There is a difference in the boots that are on them. The A1 jumper just has standard boots on it. What is kind of unique here is on this B3 fiber jumper, there is what is called a perforated flex boot. So you can come out of the back of a, say, patch panel, for instance, and for space considerations, if you need to reroute your fiber right away, you can throw a 90-degree bend into it, and it will hold that bend. So that may be of value to folks. The B3 fiber is also something that we have request samples of and sourced from Best Datacom. So one final thing is that to throw some bends into this fiber, I have just some wooden dowels that I can wrap the fiber around. For testing purposes, I have a 10 millimeter dowel, I have a 7.5 millimeter, a 5 millimeter, and then a small 3 that we'll only use for the B3. It's the only thing that can really take it. So this is the fiber that we'll be testing, and the dowels we'll use to put the bends into the fiber. Okay, I got my testing platform set up. The first thing we're going to do is test A1 fiber at 1310. So I have 3 different tests. I'll test at 10 millimeter, 7.5, and 5. This is a 10 millimeter dowel, and I'll throw 4 bends in each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And we lose a very slight amount of power, down to about a negative 5.5. So let me change out dowels and go to a 7.5 millimeter. And again, I'll throw 4 bends in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And A1 fiber at 7.5 millimeters does take on a little loss. With this, we're down to about a negative 25 or so dBm. The last one we will kind of test out here is a 5 millimeter. This fiber's not rated to take that, so we should see some loss, and that's what we will see. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 bends in A1 fiber at 5 millimeter bend radius. We're at about an egg 70. So really, from what I've been asking people and talking to people, we're effectively out of light at this point. Now, let me just run through 3 more quick tests. With this, we're going to go ahead and change wavelengths to 1550. And then I have to change to 1550 here where I'm receiving. We'll go through the same 3 tests. So A1 fiber, 1550 wavelength, 10 millimeter bends. 1, 2, 3, 4. So a significant difference between 1310 and 1550. Obviously, a longer wavelength is going to have a challenge to get around corners, and this shows this. So even at 10 millimeters, A1 fiber loses a lot at 1550, down to about a negative 34, 35 or so dBm. Swap it out and take it to a 7 millimeter bend. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're neg 55, probably pretty much just about out of light. And final test is I'll grab the 5 millimeter and 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're at neg 70. And actually, we're out of light, low signal, so we've completely lost power. So what I'll do next is I'll just take a quick break. I will disconnect this A1, hook up the B3, and we'll test that next. Okay, I've swapped out fibers. Now I have the B3 fiber hooked up, shooting across here from our light source to our meter at 1310. I probably didn't mention this when I tested the A1. We're coming off at like a neg 3.5 dBm, receiving here over here to neg 3. I don't think I mentioned that when I started testing the A1. So about a neg 3 is our reference point. And you can see that on the meter in the A1 when I started, before I started putting bends into it. So B3 fiber, 1310, and we're just gonna go ahead. I'm not gonna even test it at 10 and 7.5 millimeters because it's rated to take a 5 millimeter bend. So we're just gonna start there. So this is B3 fiber at a 5 millimeter bend. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this was coming off at about a neg 3 or neg 3 point whatever. You can throw in 4 bends and not have any loss. 5, 6, 7, maybe a fraction, a little bit of loss you can see, but just not much. So B3 fiber, without a doubt, can handle a 5 millimeter bend. For the purpose of this, I also grabbed a 3 millimeter dowel, and I'll throw some bends into this B3 with a 3 millimeter, which is almost getting to the point where you're kinking the fiber. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't even get to a neg 4 with that. I can get to about a neg 3.5. So very, very, very little loss, and this can definitely handle that. So let's do the same thing. Let's switch over to 1550. Receive over here at 1550, and we'll run the tests again. So B3 1550, we'll throw some 5 millimeter bends into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, the longer wavelength just doesn't even really, affect B3. 5, 6, 7. I can get it to a neg 4. So let me go ahead and test it with putting some 3 millimeter bends into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So longer wavelength. we should expect to see more loss. You know, we can get to a -4. I'll throw a couple more bends in, 5 and 6, and we can get to about a -5 dBm, which is really, you know, pretty insignificant. So B3 fiber definitely can handle bends. So to summarize, there's a notable difference between G657 A1 and B3 fiber with respect to bend insensitivity. With fiber density increasing throughout the network and really no reason to believe that that's going to change, there may be value in B3 fiber when you look at space utilization and ease of installation as well. So if anything has given you pause to consider your fiber planning differently through your network, you can feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'll leave my contact information at the end of the video. You can also reach out to any of your utility sales associates, territory reps as well. Thanks for watching.